continued to be these divine physicists. And being physicists and knowing that physicists love equations, we created this equation. And that equation begins with the state of Satchitananda, or existence, knowledge and bliss. But you know, we in those equations that the physicists put on the blackboard, they usually have to have symbols. Well, we're not working in symbols, but at the same time we need to find an absolute to make our equation. And so if we look at Satchitananda and we see that it means bringing together our body, our mind and our spirit, or the existence, knowledge and bliss, to give it an absolute, to give it a name, perhaps we could call it unified consciousness. So if we're in a state of unified consciousness and we have our plus sign, recognizing that that plus sign is something that arises out of this unified consciousness, this is what we were seeking. And the wonderful answers we come up with, a state of receptivity, or fearlessness. And in listening to a little clip in an interview with Oprah Winfrey and Thich Nhat Hanh last night, he was stating that we should be in a state of deep listening. So this also is a good description for what it is that's there in this state. That's our plus from unified consciousness. But we're looking for an absolute here. So just to help us to move on to that equation, having made that first one, unified consciousness, what about if we make it an absolute? No mind. Unified consciousness. If we go behind receptivity and deep listening, fearlessness, what do we find? No mind, or that absence of identity, absence of self, or no self. Isn't that so? So we have unified consciousness plus no mind, or no self. So what do they equal? This is what we've been seeking to complete our equation. So there's another story that might help us with this, and it's the story of a great mystical illuminate. And after illumination, having learned the secrets of the ages, he went to Basra, and he opened a little store and became a merchant, and he prospered very well. But some years later, a dervish came by, a dervish who knew the merchant in the early days when they were both with the great Sufi master who was their teacher. So the dervish was very greatly surprised, because he himself was still a teacher, wandering the roads of the world, seeking enlightenment. So when he came to the store of the merchant, he said to him, "I am surprised and sad and disappointed that you have abandoned the quest for enlightenment." But the merchant merely made no response and just smiled at him. So the dervish took his leave and went on his wanderings, but very often after that, when he had people gathered around him, because people gathered around dervishes, he would oftentimes tell them of the Sufi who abandoned his quest to follow the pursuit of being a merchant. But then, as is the way of things, in his seeking, the dervish seeker, by the great blessing that sometimes descends on us, met up with the great teacher Qadir. Now we know Qadir is often called the Green One. He's like the prophet Elijah. He comes to men when they're in dire need, or they're in a state of ripeness. So in his meeting with Kadir, the dervish seeker asked of him, please tell me where I can find the teacher of the age, that I can go to him to complete my enlightenment. And Kadir said, go to such and such a merchant and do whatever menial task he asks of you. The dervish seeker said, but how can he be illuminated, much less be the teacher of the age? And Kadir said, after illumination, our merchant learned the objectivity of existence, and I taught him that if one appears spiritual or holy, it attracts only the greedy and repels those who have no taste for pomp and display. Go to him, do whatever it is that he asks of you. So this is our equals, unified consciousness, plus no self, no mind, no identity, equals. What is this equals now? Knowing that all of this is for the purpose of answering that question. What is our relationship with life now? Or more accurately, what is life's relationship with us? And in this story, knowing as we do subjectivity and objectivity, what is this objectivity that's spoken of in this story? The illuminate learning to relate to life objectively. No opposites, but objectively. What is life now for you? What is this equals? Knowing that it's the place where stillness and movement meet, because life is movement. Unified consciousness plus no mind, receptivity, fearlessness, deep listening, equals. happens when you encounter someone? Even here, when we greet each other. Sure, our arms are always open to embrace. That's our receptivity. And then there's presence, just waiting, the deep listening, allowing that to enter that embrace. Isn't it so we find now with everything, wherever we go, when someone comes into your shop, someone walks up the drive, the child comes in from school, what is it? What is this equals? The place where stillness and movement meet. Yes, yes. But being is an active thing, isn't it? Being, it connotes movement. Would you agree?
It's sort of the way I think of it is linguistically that we move from the active to the passive,
Yes.
which is that life happens. Life is an expression of Siddhartha Maharaj says when the fruit ripens, the perfume is emitted. And the perfume of life is emitted.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't emit from.
No. Mm-hmm.
There's a spaciousness that allows for that big bang of expression, I guess.
Yes. Yes. But we can observe it in our daily lives now, because we have to acknowledge that for the most part we are living in this unified state of consciousness. We do have presence, we are in the moment. And so whatever it is that comes into our ages, we can clearly observe it. This is the objectivity of it, isn't it? To be able to recognize what it is that's occurring at any given moment, so we can be aware. And in that awareness, we can find this answer. We can find this equals. What does it equal? What is this? And so we answer those questions. So be aware yourself of what happens now in any encounter you might have, going into the shopping center. Whatever it is, there is something that is there because of this state. We have to recognize that we are in that state. See what happens. And recognize for ourselves what it is. Then we know who we are and what we do also. Thank you, thank you.